Joining us now, Congressman, Republican Morgan Griffith, 9th District, that's Southwest Virginia. Congressman, great to have you with us.
Good to be with you.
Your reaction to, number one, Trump's hit on General Qasem Soleimani, and then number two, Iran's response.
Well, number one, I think the president was right and within his rights to take out the general. They've had a long-running war. He's been plotting against the interests of the United States. He's a casualty of war. It's that simple. I think the Iran response, if that's all they do is measured to say to their people, yeah, we did something, and that I think you're right. We shouldn't go any further than that. We should not be gambling on war. And unfortunately, sometimes some people want to do that. Sometimes you got to defend yourself. So I'm not against taking action to defend ourselves, but I do think we have to be cautious about just going willy-nilly into war. You and I, of course, are thinking about this because we know that our sons will be of an age in just a couple of years where they could be called up to serve. So if we're going to go to war, let's make sure we're defending the United States of America. Let's defend our interests across the globe, which is what I think the president did. But if this is all that Iran does, I think that we should let it be.
Oh, spot on, sir. Spot on. And we're trying to explain to people today that Iran had to do this, that this is a shot across the bow. They have to placate their hardliners in their Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, and some of those generals there. And obviously, they have to show the people that they have the means to be able to hit us if they so choose. But if you look at these strikes of these missiles on the targets, they were surgically done in a way that there were no casualties and really no damage, right?
Well, I don't know about the damage reports. I have not seen all the damage reports, but I understand there were no casualties, and that's excellent. But it does appear that they hit some places where they were making a point. They hit bases where drones are run out of, that kind of thing. But it wasn't significant damage, as long as there weren't any casualties. It's property damage. That's a measured response, and we should recognize it as such.
So I agree with you 100%. And look, Congressman, you're there, you're in D.C., you know the neocons and the warmongers are going to be running around today, going on Fox News, the Tom Cottons, the Liz Cheneys, and by the way, not for your comment here, but Dick and Liz Cheney, the whole Cheney warmonger family has been dead wrong on every foreign policy issue for the last 5 decades, and they're unrepentant about it. So she's going to be running around Congress today, having meetings with this one and that one, talking about what response we should have now and what bombs should be dropped where. And I've been down this path with these people and the Cheneys so much, I'm sick of it. That's just my narrative. Going forward, though, a lot of the rhetoric, blaming Obama for giving them the $1.7 billion cash, I just don't know where it's a healthy debate to go back now and debate what Obama did. He did what he did. Trump got elected. He got out of the Iranian deal. It is what it is. Don't you think it's a better position for us to look forward than to go back and ratchet up anti-Obama rhetoric? What does that do?
The only thing I would say to that is that because the Democrats are constantly saying that we can't, that President Trump can't do this and President Trump can't do that, but wait a minute, Obama did something similar. That's the only time I think we should look at it. Wait a minute, you all had no problem with Obama doing it. Mm-hmm. Then right. I think it's appropriate.
Agreed, 100%. That's why I love having you on. You're so common sense. Can I shift gears a minute, Congressman, to impeachment, and then we'll get to the General Assembly in Virginia. What is going on with the articles of impeachment? What is your speaker doing?
Well, I will tell you, I have a different view than some, and I have expressed my view to leadership members. I think a writ of mandamus lies. That is that it's an extraordinary writ in the courts that says do your job to a government official. Nancy Pelosi is Speaker of the House, but once they gavelled down the vote and then laid the motion to reconsider on the table without objection, the motion to reconsider is hereby laid on the table, and there was no objection, and the gavel went down. It was no longer her job as Speaker. She is the functionary and administrator responsible for getting those papers to the Senate. Mm-hmm. This is not the internal workings of the House. Mm-hmm. The House did its job, whether you like what we did or not, and I voted against it. Mm-hmm. But whether you like it or not, the House has completed its job. Now it's merely the function of the office to get it to the Senate. They have failed to do that. Mm-hmm. I don't think you could have made that argument on day one or day two, but certainly by December 30th or January 2nd, they should have gotten that to the Senate. They have failed to do their job. There is no internal rules or workings that govern this. It is a matter of doing the job of transmitting it to the Senate. She's failed to do it. I think court order's in place, and I think we should be filing suit for a writ of mandamus to make her do her job. She's failing to do her job.
And she has cover by the legacy fake news media, right? That's giving her cover, keeps telling you over and over that she's well within her rights to do this, and there's
That's
more
right.
evidence coming out, right? So she has air cover with them. Let me ask you this, Congressman. Yesterday, Leader McConnell came out and said, "Look, I've got the votes to move this forward, regardless." What is the legality there? Can you shed light on that?
Well, I think he has to wait until the documents are actually delivered to him. Then again, once it gets down the hallway, then the rules of the Senate come into play, and I think he can do what he wants to do.
But if she doesn't, if the Speaker doesn't deliver the articles of impeachment to the Senate, like you say, across the hall, what happens?
Well, I mean, if she doesn't deliver it at a certain amount of time, I would make another argument to the courts that they don't have the power to just bring it up any time they want to, and that they've lost their rights. But that is not. I don't think we've gotten to that time point yet. But we're in a position where, initially people thought it was crazy, and I did too. And when some people said, did the impeachment really happen? Well, if she doesn't deliver it, it happened. But because of the failure of the Speaker of the House to do her job, it was never effective. I mean, it's like you can file a lawsuit, but if you never serve it on the defendant, the lawsuit is just sitting there kind of in limbo, and it never has any effect. And so I think that basically they had to hurry up and get an impeachment done. Got to do it. It's so important. We got to get this guy out of there. And now it's not important at all. And maybe they want to just let it linger. I think for political reasons, so they can say he wasn't exonerated by the Senate. He wasn't, found not guilty by the Senate. They just have it in limbo to use in the campaign. Absolutely atrocious, which is why I think we need to force her hand by filing a writ of mandamus. And I've got some folks who are working with me on that.
A writ of mandamus is what you're going to file, which is going to make her respond to whether or not she brings these papers over or not.
The court just says, do your job. Take the papers down the hall.
All right.
It is a case of first impression. The court could say we don't get involved.
Right.
But it's not in the House. It's not in the Senate. It's literally outside the door of the House right now, and the Senate is just waiting for some, functionary person some factotum to carry it down the hallway.
Limbo. Yeah, okay, so this is amazing. This is a great analogy. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America, where with Republican Congressman, 9th District, Virginia, Morgan Griffith, representing Southwest Virginia, huge district, basically Salem, Roanoke area, all the way down to Tennessee. So let me just ask you this. Great analogy. So it's like somebody draws up a lawsuit, right, goes to a lawyer, draws it up, but never files it. So if it's never filed, you're not really being sued by anybody. It's just somebody had a meeting, right?
That's right. That's right.
So if you use that analogy, which I never thought of, I think is great, because everybody can understand that, technically the president's not been impeached.
When the president first said that, I thought, well, that's just not true. But Pelosi is actually making it true through her outrageous behavior.
Right.
Or lack of behavior.
Right. Unbelievable. So basically, until she brings it over there, nothing happens. And do you think you're the first person I've heard say, everybody has said the obvious, right? It's the obvious thing. She wants to get witnesses and further this thing out and make the president look bad. But you're saying she might not ever deliver these, and that so he can never be exonerated, and it becomes a PR effort on her part, so they never get delivered. The president never gets his day in court. He never gets exonerated. They're still hanging out there, and she rides it to November. Is that possible?
It is possible. I don't know that that's a fact, but it is possible. And what they can do is they can say, well, we couldn't send it over there because we weren't going to get a fair hearing.
So
and,
it just
seriously,
hangs out.
People, it just hangs out. This has all been about politics all along.
Right.
So don't look at this and try to find fairness. Don't look at this and try to find justice. It's all about politics. It's never been about anything except politics. And this is the political move. It's not the legal move. It's not the fairness move. It's not the doing the right thing by the American people move. It's just pure, raw politics. I think that's wrong, and I think she's merely a factotum, a functionary at this point, and she needs to be ordered by the Supreme Court to take that paper down the hall.
Unbelievable.
Let's go to Virginia.
You've nailed two things. It's like a lawsuit that was drawn up in your attorney's office, and you spent a lot of money on it, but you never filed it. So it's just in somebody's drawer. And second of all, I think this is the first I've heard this. I mean, this might be a political ploy to just have it hang over like a black cloud through November and blame the Senate. That would be an interesting stroke on Pelosi's part. All right. I'm going to get to a quick word from our sponsors, Kiara. When I get back, we're just going to shift gears a little bit. And Congressman Griffith served in the General Assembly for a long time. He was in leadership there. I'm going to get his take on what Caucus of the Corn is up to, who's going to be in charge, what are the rules. They stalled a day. They don't have their act together. What a mess. We're going to get the congressman to weigh in on that when I get back. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Don't touch that dial. You found your home of the truth.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
With the best analysis in America.
You can't handle the truth.
And now back to the John Fredericks Show.
All right, we're back. Congressman Morgan Griffith with us. Okay, so rules in the House, Caucus of the Corn taking charge today. They're going to organize. There was a post to present those today. They're stalling for a day. What is going on there?
Well, apparently they don't have their act completely together. I don't know what the fight is behind the scenes. I will just tell you this. I was there when we took over for the first time, and we were out of power for 100 and almost 20 years. They were out of power for 20 years. We were ready day one to come in there. We had our rules package ready. We tweaked it after a couple of years. It's got tweaked a couple of times, but we were ready on day one to go forward. Apparently, they're not ready to go forward. They have some kind of a dispute going on behind the scenes with their rules package. I hope some of their members are fighting against efforts to make the rules unfair. We've made our rules much fairer than the Democrats ever had for us. We think it's good for the Republic to have proportional seating on committees and good for the Commonwealth of Virginia. That means that if you have 45 members in the House of Delegates, you have roughly 45% of the members on every committee. Mm-hmm. That's what we did for the last 20 years, even when we were down to just a two-seat majority. Speaker Cox kept that rule and applied it even to the subcommittees. So, the rules have to be fair. They can always win because they have the majority. Any battle they want to. It's right there in Jefferson's manual. The majority can always win by numbers. The rules have to be fair. Now, the question is, why don't they just, if they're going to adopt the old rules for a day, are they adopting them for a year? When we couldn't adopt rules in 1998, and that was when it ended up being power sharing, but there was a real debate over who had control. It was 50-50 in the end, but not on day one. The governor couldn't even come down and give his speech. Governor Allen had to give his speech from his executive ceremonial signing room in the Capitol because we were not ready to do business. If they're not ready to do business, I don't think Ralph Northam should be taking the podium. They're trying to do a one-day deal. Never been done before in the history of Virginia. And even in 98 when we had our problems, the Democrats didn't try to do a one-day deal. The rules are very clear. those rules stay in effect until a new package of rules are adopted. And when that new package is adopted, that is your rules for 2 years. You can amend those rules, but you have to have a 5-day process to review the amendments. Democrats don't want to do that. They're trying to get around the rules. They already are showing, A, that they're not ready for prime time, and B, they're doing something behind the scenes at least to try to shaft the minority because they don't even have the strength to realize that with the majority, they can do whatever they want to. So they're trying to do something unfair, I think, and it looks like some of their members are saying, no, let's be fair. Or it could be the other way around. Leadership may be trying to do what's fair, and their members want to be unfair. I don't know, but something's going on. Stay tuned. It'll be fun. I wish I was there, but I've got business to do in D.C.
So they want to stack the committees.
Well, I don't know what they want to do, but something, they're not ready to go forward with the rules because there's some kind of a fight going on in their caucus. And I don't know what it is. I don't know who's on the side of trying to do it right or who's on the side of trying to do it wrong, but somebody has got enough votes that they've caused a problem and they don't feel like they're ready to go to the floor to put a rules package up, which is their obligation as the majority party to be ready to do. They're not ready for prime time. We'll see what the rules say. I hope they stick with proportional seating and don't stack the committees. I hope that they do, pass rules that are very similar to what we've had for the past 20 years. And most of the rules, except for proportional seating, were in place for the last 150 years.
Unbelievable.
And if they go off in some new direction and start, shafting the minority on day one or day two, as the case may be, then we will know that we're in for a bumpy ride and that they're not looking for good governance. They're just looking for power.
Congressman Morgan Griffith, we're out of time. I want to thank you for being with us. Love your insight. Great discussion today. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. Have fun.
John Fredericks Radio Network.